Hey Float House, my name is Christina Weeb and this is my entry for the Why We Float contest. I think I have a unique story that has to do with chronic disease and floating, and maybe if other people who are in a similar kind of shape as I am hear about this story, they might turn to floating and find a tool that helps them manage their disease. I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to share my story. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Vancouverite, and it was maybe 2.5 years ago when I first heard about floating from a friend who told us that he'd been going to the sensory deprivation tank in someone's basement. And at the time, my fiance and I thought this was really sketchy and had no idea what to make of it. We didn't really take him too seriously when he first told us about it. And then in January 2014, my entire world changed. I have a chronic disease called central sensitivity syndrome. In very simple terms, it's like an entire sensitization of my central nervous system, but also my peripheral nervous system. And two of the chronic diseases that fall underneath the umbrella of central sensitivity syndrome are fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. And those are a lot more widely known by the population. So at the end of January, I call it my big crash. My entire system went completely haywire. I was in the most excruciating pain that I had ever experienced before. I had absolutely no energy. I was at the point where it felt like I was going to die attempting to breathe, and I very quickly became incapable of doing anything other than lying in bed. So I couldn't brush my teeth, I couldn't shower myself, I couldn't walk maybe 12 feet to the kitchen to make myself food. I couldn't regulate my body temperature. I had a flare-up of interstitial cystitis, so it felt like I constantly had a bladder infection. I was itchy all over to the point where I thought I was going to go insane. So months and months of bed rest followed. I had to quit my job as someone who was doing the marketing and business acquisitions of a management consulting company in Vancouver. And it was my dream job, and I was devastated having to leave it. But I just couldn't function at all. Maybe 6 months into me being extremely sick, my fiance at the time, Peter, remembered what our friend had told us about sensory deprivation tanks and encouraged me to make an appointment at the Float House to give it a shot. And the reason why we thought maybe this would be a good thing for me to try is because a unique component of my condition is that anywhere that my body senses touch or pressure, my brain interprets it as pain. So I'm sitting on this sofa right now, and everywhere that my body is making contact with it, it hurts. I don't know what just regular touch feels like. To me, it's a painful sensation. So we figured that if I was lying in the sensory deprivation tank and had no pressure points on my body, then perhaps I would finally be relieved of pain, even if it was just for the 90 minutes of the float. So I can't remember exactly when we made our first float, but I do remember that the first time I got into the tank, I was in excruciating pain. I was in a lot of pain going into it, but once I got into the tank and I had no other distraction around me, the amount of pain I felt was amplified. And I think that's a very unique outcome, specific to me, and not one that many other people have experienced. And when I was talking to some of you guys from the float house, you were all really surprised by it. But to be honest, I wasn't that surprised. My body tends to do really weird things with this disease. So for those 90 minutes, I lay there in ever-increasing bouts of pain. Anywhere the water touched my skin, it felt like I was being set on fire. And, you know, rather than run out of the tank and swear that I would never go back again, I had this extremely strange sensation or thought or intuition that even though it hurt, I was in the right place for me and something good could come of this. So I spent that 90 minutes for the first time in my life meditating on the pain. I didn't try to distract myself from it because there was nothing in the tank that I could use as a distraction. It was just me, my body, my chronic disease, my pain. And I listened to it. I felt and accepted everywhere on my body where I felt the pain. And I tried to meditate on the thought that this was a part of me and I would get much further in life if I learned to accept it. So that was my first float, and some people think I was crazy to keep going back, and I've been asked that even by some of the people who work at the float house. I was asked, you know, if it was such a bad experience, why did you go back? I have three main reasons for why I keep floating and why Peter and I have been floating for the last year or so. The first is that I feel the tank is like an ever-changing teacher. It's like going into a classroom where I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm going to be learning that day, but I am guaranteed that I will learn something. And throughout the many floats that I've done, I've learned how to accept pain and be okay with suffering. I've learned to get over my really bad mood, because when you're in pain and you're extremely fatigued, it's really easy to be grumpy and lash out at people. And when I get into the tank, I'm able to achieve this greater sense of calm and realize that I'm being grumpy and realize that I'm being very easily aggravated, and then settle into a state of peace and contentment where I know that though I'm tired and though I'm in pain, I'm going to walk out of the tank and I'm going to be happy for still being alive and still being able to experience things in the world around me. The second reason why I keep going back to the float house is because I think there are 3 times that I fell asleep in the tank, and it was the deepest sleep that I have ever achieved in my entire life. When someone like me who has chronic pain tries to sleep, it's almost impossible, especially when the body is extremely sensitized and in a flare-up. And that's because everything that I touch hurts me. My cheek on the pillow, that's painful. The pressure of my head on the pillow, that hurts. Anywhere my skin comes in contact with the bed, or where my skin of one leg comes in contact with the other, it hurts. And it's very hard to fall into a restorative sleep when you're in that kind of pain and you have that many distracting sensory inputs in your environment. And 3 times when I was in the tank, I fell asleep and I didn't even hear the music go off at the end, signaling the end of the float. And when I walked out of there, I almost felt like I was a new person. For the first time in my life, I experienced what it was like to sleep, and sleep to the point where I think my body was being restored and it was able to enter a healing process. And that is something I chase after every time I go into the tank. To me, it's a great blessing being able to fall asleep for those 30 minutes, 20 minutes, because it's better than me trying to lie in bed for 10 hours. And the third reason why I think floating is such an incredible practice, especially for someone who is sick like me, is because it gives me a place to encounter my chronic disease, but also escape from it. So when I'm in that tank and I am with no one but myself and my pain and my fatigue, I'm there with it, and it's almost like I need to learn to be okay with it. This is the only body I have, and circumstances have had it that I am sick with these chronic diseases. And being in the tank gives me a chance to meet myself as if I were meeting a friend who is sick, and learning to comfort myself, and finding contentment in being myself. And on the opposite spectrum, it's also a chance for me to escape the struggles and the hardships that come from being inflicted with this kind of illness every single day. And I say escape because I just reach a state of being where I'm okay. I'm okay with being who I am, and that gives me freedom from feeling like the very worn down, sick and tired and grumpy person that I usually am during daily life. And I fully believe in the power of floating and the multifaceted experiences and valuable lessons a person can learn from going into that tank and melting away into nothingness. And if anything, I know with complete certainty that my mind is my worst enemy. It is constantly busy with thoughts, inundated with depression and feeling worn down by my illness, and being unhappy that I can't achieve the goals that I thought I would be achieving at this point in life. And when I'm in the tank, I learn that anyone, no matter what their circumstances, they can be happy and they can achieve states of joy and comfort and calm. And yeah, it's really incredible. So thank you for listening to my story. We really hope that we win the contest. We just got married in August, and because I haven't been able to work since 2014, the beginning of 2014, we just couldn't afford to go on a honeymoon. So it would be really cool if we won this contest and got to spend some time together, especially since right now I'm living in Calgary with his cousin while he's down in San Francisco studying at a computer programming coding boot camp, in the hopes that he can make a better future for us, because our lives really were turned upside down when I got sick, and we're just trying to figure a way to make it in life. So yeah, thanks.